I've just been surprised too many times by that. I had a student when I first came to Cleveland who was probably about as hopeless in terms of what I would imagine a professional musician might be on the fiddle as I've seen in my years of teaching. And it really was very painful. I felt hypocritical. I felt dishonest, about the whole situation. I finally, for one of the should we be encouraging? Should the school be encouraging this person to carry on this way? When as soon as they get that ticket, they're going to go looking for a job. I mean, it's going to be hopeless. And I had heard other colleagues articulate things like that in the past. And I don't think I had ever done it before. I might have hinted to it, but I went to the student and felt that it was important that I at least let her know to some degree that I was thinking along these terms. I tried not to be cruel, but I tried to be honest about it because it really was sincerely bothering me.
Well, it could be a very caring thing, really.
Yeah, and I wanted it to, and it was meant that way.
Yeah.
And I went to her and I said that I was very concerned and so on, that might not be able to get a job, that I couldn't promise one, that I thought that there were a lot of weaknesses there, although I feel that the weaknesses are improving, I mean, I don't know where you're going to be, and I think it could be bleak, and I want you to know that. But that I do appreciate how hard you work and your seriousness, but I just feel that I have to take. She looked at me with an eye that I'll never forget, and she said, Mr. Cerone, she says, please don't throw me out. She says, I will work as hard as anybody in the world can possibly work. I'm only asking you for the opportunity to teach me what you know. And I just ask of you to please not take that away from me, take your telling me what you know away from me. And let me deal with it in any way. I take the responsibility for it. So I said, okay, that's a deal. That's a deal. I can't. What kind of a person would I be if I said I'm not going to? If you want to know what I know, it's not up to me to just say no. I'm not going to tell you what I know.
And you knew that she seemed to have understood her situation.
Yeah, she did.
I mean,
it was very clear.
Yes,
it was very clear.
Yeah.
The only thing she wanted was the opportunity to get information. And that's what I think a school is for. I think the school's purpose is to educate people. The school's purpose is not to go out and find them jobs. The school's mission is to educate the student. And that's why I think a lot of schools get into a lot of problems. I think they create the problems for themselves from trying to be entrepreneurial. I think that what they need to do is to make sure that the faculty is made up of people who know the field, who know music. More than anything, it really boils down to that. And again, it's not as idealist as it may seem. If the student is being constantly pointed in the direction of, or I should say away from the direction of just trying to get a job, but toward the direction of understanding what the hell it is that they are really doing, there's plenty of room for them out there. I've seen at the other job-oriented person, A, often they don't stay in the job very long, and B, they're not very fulfilled as a human being. And again, I think we get down to quality of life. I think we get to the fact that if you're in a little smaller group someplace, but your quality of life is high, and you're able to make a decent living and so on, who's to judge whether you're better off than somebody else who's unhappy in a big situation and making a lot more money? Well, the upshot of my story was the girl went on, took her degree and so on, was happy as a clam and had a job 5 minutes after she graduated. She got a boyfriend, she got married, she went to Europe. She was from a European background anyway, got involved in one of the community orchestras over there. To this day, I get letters from time to time. Happy as a lark, loves it, is involved in music, is doing what she wants. I can give you another situation of a gal who got a job right here in the States, in a very similar kind of situation. And we had the same kind of a feeling. We're going to give this kid everything we've got and try and make sure that the human elements are there. The understanding that you have to try and get out of the music what's in it for your own soul, for your own That's what makes you alive. Getting the paycheck is not going to make that piece any more beautiful or any less beautiful. It's not going to work that way. And if you can just somehow, and this is something that was instilled in me by all my teachers, really. I was very, very fortunate. In my chamber music teachers and in my violin teachers, I was really, really fortunate. This is a common denominator that I've seen through every one of them. Is this total commitment to what's on that page. And you think of the artists and think of the composers who wrote this music, what they went through because of this commitment. That's the kind of person that I'm interested in. Yeah. And that kind of person, I swear to you, Jeff, they will find a way. I knew another person who were in the same kind of a situation. I went to the community where this person finally wound up. You know, I was going somewhere and I got a ride from somebody in their car to an event or something, and they turned to me and they said, "Hey, listen, you got any more of these so-and-sos?" I was almost afraid to bring the person's name up, figuring maybe they got a job under false pretenses and maybe
someone
they
that had studied
at the institute, and somebody I was not, any kind of a real virtuoso. I thought maybe he had a lucky day. Fantastic. We adore her here. Have you got any more of those? We had a Russian...
This is the network you're talking
right.
about, too.
This is the network.
Yeah.
And, I've got more of those.
Yeah.
I do have more of those. That Russian emigre that came in here, boy, he played the most incredible audition. Boy, was he a pain in the ass. Are we glad that he left? Or this one that came in, or that one that came in. It's all he looked at from the first day he was in here was trying to find some way to win a contest and take our bucks with him. Or he was always in there asking for a raise. This one is wonderful, but she's making an important contribution. She's involved in a chamber music group. She's involved in the orchestra there. She gets involved in, they were putting together a little competition. She got involved in that. She's making a contribution to the community, and she's careful with what she's doing. It's
so
presumptuous hell of us sometimes. I've heard this also. I've heard a lot of teachers say that the student thinks they're better than they are, and it's my job to tell them they're not dumb. This miracle of a human being that you and I have been talking about, they know. Don't kid yourself, they know. But just because they don't walk around all day in gloom and doom, like the teachers sometimes do because they're afraid they're not going to get any work, doesn't mean that because they're happy and enjoying what they're doing, why should we penalize them twice?
So you're looking for that spark in who you bring to the institute, and you want to keep it there.
Right.
So
I want to keep their strengths. I want them to keep their strengths, and for us to know that we recognize them while we work together and try to improve some of the weaknesses.
Saying, I want to not just look in terms of the pure proficiency of performance, although that's very
Not
important.
at all.
But there's a lot of other things to take into consideration here. Are these people doing good in the world?
I'm interested in
done?
things. The important things they have to live with themselves. You don't keep the same job for life, but you keep life for life. And that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in how they're going to live the rest of their lives, from the inside out. I'm not interested if they're going to play every note perfectly tuned. I'm interested in that because I believe that that's tied in with the quality of life.
As a goal.
As a goal. But I'm more interested in that. I'm more interested in the fact that they're taking it seriously and that they're dedicated to what they're doing, that they become good students. Because if they become good students, meaning that they're good receivers, it's going to expand their ability to learn anything.
And what I'm inferring is a good student to you means an excited person.
Yes.
Something excited about it. Not just performing, not just able to perform, but excited about it.
I've had an interesting common denominator in my life too, Jeff. I've never left a job. I've only gone to another one. I had no intention of leaving Oberlin when I went to Cleveland, but I went to a very important opportunity. I didn't leave the Curtis Institute. I went to an important opportunity. I want them not to leave their teachers. I want them to
go somewhere.
To go somewhere important. And that's part of being in the family.
Joseph Gingold expressed almost that same thought.
Well, Joe and I are very much aligned in that. He's very family-oriented, extremely. I mean, in his kids.
Yeah,
it's
but
most
the way
important.
he moved from one position to the other was certainly not out of any problems, but because he wanted to go to the next step.
Right.
In the 2 or 3 positions.
Yes.
What do you think is distinctive about conservatory education as it is and as you see it?
Well, the immersion in music. I mean, that is the central focus, and that's the bottom of the dish. That everything falls off the walls down into music. And I think, again, getting back into the entrepreneurial kind of stuff and the worrying about, each person worrying about will his student get a job and so on and so forth. That focuses away from what we're trying to do. The important thing that I see, the common denominator that I want to make sure is important, and I'm not sure this is done everywhere. I think the attempt is there, and even if it is done everywhere, there's still room for it to be done more, is that whatever we are attached to has to have direct application to what the student is, what's important to the student. It has to always relate. If I'm studying a Vieuxtemps concerto, I don't want the Vieuxtemps concerto to be unrelated to the things that I'm doing in that institution. And I think that's, again, the ultimate, from a technical point of view, this is the ultimate networking. If you want to teach Pachelbel, that's fine. Teach Pachelbel. But make sure that you relate Pachelbel somewhere along the line here to what I'm doing today. I'm willing to talk and to be talked to about Pachelbel, but try to keep it interesting to me, to what I'm doing every day. I don't want to be for long periods of time involved in something that I can't see any application for what I'm doing. Please try to tie it in.
Irritates you. Where have you seen that?
I think we've all seen that, haven't we?
You mean overly scholarly?
Yeah.
In a dry sense?
Yes, right. Well, it's fine that he did that. It's fine, but what does it sound like? So Bach did this and he violated this rule and he did that rule. Well, that's fine, but I'm playing this Bach. Can you show me something in the Bach I'm just playing now? Is there any of that good stuff you were just telling me about in here?
And ultimately in the sound.
And because that's a sound I know, because I'm working on that every day. And I always wonder what this chord is, sort of a funny sounding. It's hard too, because they usually are. There's always a technical implication involved in it too. Very often the rule breakers are the big problems in the pieces. The things that make the composers great are when they've got you all set up and then just all of a sudden move you a little bit over in this direction. Well, very often in the execution of the work, those are the tough places. What's the toughest part to practice in any piece? Is the transitions. I can play this theme great and I can play this theme, but how the hell do I get from here to here? How do I get through this development section, which seems to be modulating, 30, 40 times? How do I do it interestingly or whatever? So I find that.
So those are the ultimate problems, and all the coursework and the teaching should be pointed that way.
Yes.
Yeah. Sure.
I want to stay plugged into the things that I'm facing as a student every day. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't ever be obtuse, because in order for me to get I've got time. You don't have to keep everything related to every piece that I'm playing. I realize that there are concepts that are, you can't do that always. Sometimes we have to just simply stay on a note for a while, because it's a little bit, again, it's like bringing up children. It's the best example I can give you. I think it's what's important. What's important is to care and be consistent. That's what's important. And sometimes the only way to get you to understand the beauty of this chord that's bothering you so much is to keep you right here, to keep you away from that chord. Because I'm going to give you so much of 1-5 that you don't, it comes out your ears, so that now when I give you 1-6, you'll begin to understand what it means.
So if you were going to teach theory, that's how you teach it.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody give me an example. Well, I'll tell you another thing I think that's really interesting. I think that the students don't. Well, it's the same thing. If they can stay plugged in, it's sort of like, being online, and just from time to time being able to go to the computer and see where the hell you are. Where are the weaknesses in my repertoire? What have I been doing? I often wanted to sit down and I've done it many times, is to project ahead in the career of the student, so that they can sort of say, we sat down in September and here it is now, 15 months later. And when we were talking about it, we were sort of projecting it that I should be finished with 4 out of 6 Bach sonatas, and I'm still on the second one. What's that telling me? It can be telling me two things. Either I'm going slower than we had anticipated, or for some reason we've taken a different direction, and those are both very important questions to me, and I better ask my teacher. And the teacher better have a reason, which requires organization on the part of the teacher. That's a part of an area that I might be able to be helpful, is to be able to sit back and say, tell me about so-and-so. What are they doing? Well, they're doing fine. Well, I know fine, but do you know their repertoire? Do you know how much Bach they've done? Do you know how many Beethoven sonatas they've played? Not offhand. Well,
this is talking to a faculty.
yeah, talking to a colleague now.
Not keeping a bigger picture,
Yeah.
a plan, a schedule.
Right. It's not that all different in teaching than it is in business.
Is that something you'd kind of be encouraging then?
I would be encouraging that.
To help
Right.
over a 4-year period or 2 years or whatever.
And I think most of the faculty does that. I would just want to be there to encourage that I know that they do it and that I want them to continue doing it, and that they can talk to me about it. They can come to me and say, so-and-so is disappointing me here and there, and I can bring some people together and we can talk about maybe ways of motivating them a little bit, or doing this or doing that, but doing it together. I have a policy. The first time if somebody wants to get fired at the Institute, all they have to do is go up to me and say it can't be done. I've told later message down, the first person that says it can't be done's out. I don't believe that. It was Kennedy. It was that wonderful expression that Kennedy used, the strength to...
Some people ask why...
No. Well, it's similar to that, but it's give me the strength to
change what can be changed.
Give me the patience to accept that which cannot, and the wisdom to be able to choose between the two.
Yeah.
And you see, I want to stay involved. I'm going to be right there with them in this process also. So we're all in this thing together.
Will you have any ties with Curtis anymore?
Unfortunately, it's impossible. This is a full-time job, and I simply cannot. And I must add at this point that I am really comforted, and I guess that's the best word I can use, at not only the enthusiasm about this move for me from the director, from Mr. Delancey, and through the board at Curtis. It's the same feeling that I had when I left Cleveland. One of pride, one of support, one of understanding that this was something that only comes along maybe once in a lifetime. An opportunity to make an impact like this.
You're doing something good for music, not a betrayal.
Not a betrayal, because they also see this as an extraordinary opportunity, and they have been very vocal about it. I mean, they have gone out of their way to make sure that I know that they feel this way, and I'm really grateful for that.
So this could be part of your network, I mean, in a sense, in some way.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all really part of it, if we can just see it that way.
So I see you as bringing yourself to the position. You're not bringing a lot of policies and rules. Well, maybe you will, but you're bringing yourself.
Yes.
And that's what was asked.
And my wife.
Yes.
And we're a team. I tell you, we've done all of this together. I mean, anything that I've said, really, it should be we. We've done all of this together from the very start.
She's in on you're together and you're thinking.
She's an extraordinary friend. I mean, a great friend, a great colleague. That's pretty extraordinary, and perhaps that's why we're both free to feel this way toward a task, because we feel that way about each other.
Yeah, I remember both of you, certainly, to the extent that I knew you in Cleveland, caring for your students. Really wondering what's going on with you, or with this young guy here outside your studio. I don't know what, but you wanted to know what.
Yeah, I didn't want to wait till 2 o'clock to find out what was troubling him.
And with your Friday, I think it was Friday evening chamber music thing.
Did you read Carol Ruzica's article?
No.
She wrote an article. I should have brought you.
I remember her.
Remember Carol? Long blonde hair. She saw herself as she just wrote an article about me, which is really special. I should maybe send you a copy of it. I never expected it. Not in a million years did I expected it. It just came to me. I should send you a copy of that. I must make a note.
I didn't. You still have my address?
Oh yeah.
Where was the?
It was one of the local papers. Yeah, we'll cross-reference it that way. Neither one of us can forget it.
So she mentioned these chamber music evenings?
And our feeling for our students, both my wife and mine. I think she captured something that I find special. And again, that's the kind of, I'm really very proud, and my wife and I have mentioned this to one another upon many. We're really proud of our students as human beings. I mean, when they come back and we see what they've done, their accomplishments, and many have been outstanding by anyone's criteria. But we're always very interested in what they're doing as people, and Nelson, Stuart, and Maria are still married and still...
In Finland?
Yes, in Finland, and carrying on, and...
Calvin? What?
Calvin, and...
Well,
yeah.
he became a violist, didn't he?
Yes. And so did Mark Brownstein. You know, Mark Brownstein's assistant principal in Cleveland now, next to Bob Vernon. He was my fiddle student, and
he was very good on the fiddle.
Yeah. And what's Joan's first name? She married Paul Silver. She was my wife. Linda Jones. She might have been later than you.
What happens to them after they leave home?
Well, yes, I'm at their interim period. I'm between. I want them to all have careers, but I'm not. I don't want to say I'm not interested in their careers. I am. I'm interested in when they leave home and they're ready. We're interested in that transition. That's where we're interested in them as human beings and as instrumentalists. Because I think that that's a terribly critical time in somebody's life. Some people go through it forever without really feeling that they've come out of the other end of it. And that's okay too, as long as they keep working on it. A lot of people will look at this move for me and say, boy, I never knew he always wanted to do that. Well, I didn't. You know, you
keep growing.
You keep growing, and you try to make sure that where you are is something that's, you know, satisfying to you. And things happen. You can't predict it anymore. You can predict that somebody won't get a job. Maybe they will get a job.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, you know, that everybody's equally talented and this and that. I mean, you know, my record speaks for itself. I've worked with all levels of talent. And so I feel like I'm in a position to say what I'm saying. I'm not a person who has never taught the finest talent, and so I'm frustrated and can go around saying, well, anybody can teach the finest talent, but I'm really down here in the trenches because I really believe. I'm in a unique situation because I've taught every level, from the most extraordinarily gifted oldster to the most extraordinarily gifted youngster to the rather untalented youngster to the rather untalented 90-year-old.
Sounds like you've like, in a way, you've gotten something from it.
Out of all of it, because I don't find that ability to be able to fly around the fiddle ultimately is the most important ingredient. I really don't. I've worked with some extraordinarily gifted people and not found it satisfying at all. I've worked with some not-so-gifted people and found it not very satisfying, but I've also had the opposite. I've worked with some extraordinarily gifted people and just been inspired, and the same with some not-gifted people, and been equally inspired. You catch them at the right day and the right time, and they can turn a phrase, and there's something coming from inside of them. I don't care if the world doesn't hear it. It isn't important to me. I heard it, and I know what's going on. So I feel also fortunate to have been exposed in my particular field to really virtually every element of it.
I've heard that sentiment both from Mr. Gingold and said about his less fortunate students. He said, they need me more. I'm sure you. And Pressler too, Menachem Pressler said the same thing you just said. Because I've had students that, you know, might not add up to much on the surface. But once in a while, play a Brahms intermezzo that just knocks my socks off. He's careful in the same way.
Yeah, I've heard my greatest performances in my studio. I've heard the greatest honesty. I've heard the greatest performance of the Beethoven Concerto. I've heard the masters, but I've also heard it in my studio from people you would least expect. I've heard the Beethoven Concerto, and that's the joy of teaching. That's where the real joy of teaching really is seeing that spirit, in fact, is in everyone. Then it just becomes a matter. I guess that's what soul really is. I guess then it just becomes a matter of consistency, and it becomes a matter of concentration, and it becomes a matter of other physical elements. I don't know, to be able to recall that and repeat it and be able to do it in public, and on and on. You put the add-ons, but it doesn't mean that it isn't there. It doesn't mean that it's not there. And the opposite is also true. For all intents and purposes, a real hot shot and so on, over a long exposure you find out that there's something not there. And the opposite of that is true. And that's when it's glorious, sure. When they've got all the gifts and all these qualities and sit down and knock your socks off. That's great. But it's no more great. It's just they can do that to more people, so therefore they're suited to a different outlet than maybe someone else might be. We have to get back, yeah. There's a good deal to be done. There's no question about it. And it is a very down deep feel. Go on the road and play concerts. I mean, music is everywhere. I just don't think people live without it. And if they're not going to live without it, there's no reason that we can't help them live with it. There's no reason, therefore, have to be out of the picture. If music stops, then maybe. I don't see that happening. The tradition of the Institute is too strong, and I believe in that. I really do believe in it. Well, when we go on these tours, you know, I mean, we go to some out-of-the-way places.
You were in Missouri?
Yeah, right, yeah. You go into some of these places, and nothing against small towns, I love them, but you walk in there and you just wonder, is anybody here? And you go, okay, we're playing a concert, and you sort of get this feeling from time to time that, boy, it's interesting that you got this date, and you'll feel a little bit guilty that, like, there's the guy behind you is not going to get it, you know, this is going to be the last one. You know, this feeling that you just gotten in before the door closed. And you walk out on the stage, and my God, the auditorium is full of people going crazy over Haydn, Smetana, Mendelssohn, Martineau, going crazy. Coming backstage with little children, excited to see the violins. Their hands, in so many cases, showing the signs of, I mean, serious hard labor.
Oh, with the
calluses and the dirt around the nails and the crack in the skin and the suit that just, you know, gets taken. Yeah. But sincere. They're not being dragged along by their women as they are in many metropolitan areas, I can tell you. I've seen it where the guy is on, come on, George, you promised to go. I don't get the feeling that guys come back and say, boy, that's really neat, that's just terrific, you know. I'm glad you liked it. I said, boy, we're so excited, and I'm going to ask them, you know, right away, get you guys come back. And I know they say this to other groups, and people who come there and want to make sure everything's okay, the lighting is good, and they take pride in their little territory, and almost always apologize that it may not be good enough when it most often is, and sometimes it's limited, okay.
Really caring about.
Really caring. Yeah. And you go and you go, you don't walk out with that same sense of the temporary that sometimes you walk in with. You go, wow, this is fragile. You walk out and you find a brand new organization. You find out this is their first series, the first time they've ever had it in this town. And they got 1,600 members. And you remembered seeing the sign when you came in that there probably weren't more than 8,000 people in the whole town. And you're saying, wow, yeah. Oh, there's room out there. Yeah. There really is room out there. Yeah, if you want to limit your options, you want to get narrow, and you want to come point to me and say, okay, so you know how many people tried out for the cello audition in Chicago last week? Yeah. No, how many? 5,432. And you know how many they took? No, none. Yeah. You go,
something like that, actually.
Oh, I know. I think they have hundreds of people. Hundreds. Yeah. 200, 250, 300 people. Yeah. And not take one. And then you go, oh. Yeah. What am I going to tell my poor students when I go back to the studio? Well, if you're going to tell him that, you're not teaching him what you're supposed to be teaching. He's going to find that out. Is that dumb? What are you supposed to be teaching? You're supposed to be teaching what you know.